All right, all right, all right. Welcome to the Real Money Coach Show. Listen, it is Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So it is time for our live show, Facebook Live, YouTube. You are listening, you're watching the Real Money Coach Show. Y'all put in the chat where you are watching from, what part of the country, what state. We every once in a while, y'all, we get some people from overseas, Africa, that join in on the call. So you just never know, but we don't know who you are and where you are unless you put it into the chat. So make sure you put it into the chat. I've had an exciting day and it's just getting more better. You're getting more better. You know why it's getting more better? Because you are watching. The reason it's more better is because I have an outstanding co-host. It's more better because I have an outstanding special guest. And y'all know who's behind the scenes, the one and only Dante running the engineering background. So that's why we're excited. Man, y'all have not put in the chat yet. I'm not seeing no comments of where y'all. There we go. Tampa Bay is in the house. All right, we got Tampa Bay in the house. Listen, I know there's others. I see y'all coming on in, and we're just glad that you are here. I want to remind you of a couple things in terms of my calendar and everything that we have going on right now. We are in the midst. Puerto Rico, there we go. We got Puerto Rico in the house. Canapolis is in the house. Right. Listen, so we're in the midst of doing our financial literacy class, TRMC University. It is up and running. We just had week 3 last night. Vixen Powell did a wonderful job for us yesterday. And we talked about loans and debt. We talked about good debt, bad debt. We talked about the consequences and risk of different types of debt. So it was an awesome, awesome show. And we just had a great time. You can still join that, right? You can still join it by going to trmcmasterclass.com. The class is absolutely free. Also, we also have our membership. If you want to join our online financial curriculum that includes 10 modules, 175 different lessons, that's all there as well. And it's only $9.97 a month if you decide that you want to join that curriculum, be a part of that. Let me recognize a couple of other people. Dr. Bonita Harris. Listen, it's so good that you are here. I actually had breakfast and lunch with your bishop today, Bishop Claude Alexander. Want to give a shout out to him and all the things that he's doing in the community. Bishop said this. Bishop told me, he said, listen, if you want to go to Dubai and your wife don't, he said, listen, let me talk to her. And she said she'll be ready to go. He said, better yet, let First Lady Kim talk to her, and you guys will be on a plane to Dubai in a little while. So I just enjoyed breaking bread with him today. Alice Martin, thank you for being here. Constance Scott, thank you for being here. It's good to see you here. And that's Bonita's niece, I believe it is. So listen, we're excited. Let me go ahead and bring on our co-host. Y'all give it up for Mrs. Michelle Mitchell of Mitchell Consulting. Michelle, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you, Tony?
I'm doing well. Is my boy listening tonight?
No.
Whether he is or not, tell him I'm getting this foursome already, right? I'm getting this foursome already. I talked to my neighbor across the street. He said, yeah, I'm in. I'm playing.
Okay.
It's my birthday. I'm with you,
Okay.
And so when he comes down here to the Queen City, we're going to have a good time playing some golf.
Yes.
Michelle, what's happening? What's new in financial news?
Oh, my goodness. The failure of the SVB Bank is the news.
What?
Yes, it's the news.
I know it's been dominating the news.
Yeah.
And the failure of the bank. What kind of? Tell me your take on it.
So, to me, the failure of the bank is one. Twitter works. Like, if you want to get news out, to get people to do stuff. Like Twitter did that. But the bank invested money and they lost money on their bond investment because the interest rates have gone up. Um, so they lost money, and then they had some major players pull out of the bank. Therefore, their balance sheet was out of balance, right? And
Yeah, you could say
the
that's a
balance sheet was out of balance.
the balance sheet wasn't working. That's it. The
Yes,
balance sheet wasn't working, right?
the balance
So,
sheet
so,
was
so
not working.
you had 50 what was it, $50 billion
Hmm.
taken out of the bank within like a 24-hour period of
Yep.
time,
Hmm.
right? So the bank announces it loses 1.2 million on its bond portfolio
Hmm.
because the yields and interest rates and all this, and they
Right.
had a lot of stuff in crypto tech and all this type of thing.
Hmm.
What's interesting is that this bank was one of the largest banks in the country with over
That,
$200 billion in
mhm.
assets.
Yes. Hmm.
Now, here's the thing that I've been telling people all along in my classes, right? Because we always talk about cryptocurrencies, digital money. What do you think?
Yeah.
I've been telling people this, right, Michelle? I've been telling people we are already living in digital money, right?
Yes.
Because if we all went to the bank and
Yeah.
all took our money out at the same time,
Mhm.
the
They
bank
would
couldn't survive it. The bank
they
wouldn't have
wouldn't
it.
have enough money.
And that's exactly what happened, is that everybody said, whoa, they lost money,
Hmm.
1.8 billion dollars on their bond portfolio, which is supposed to be the safe money, right?
Right. Hmm.
And so then it caused what we call a bank run. And
Yes.
everybody goes and pulls their money out of the
Yeah.
bank.
And they didn't physically pull money out of the bank. They did fund transfers. So
It's
that
digital.
has to go through. It's digital. That's
Right,
right. It's digital.
right. So
Took their
exactly,
money out.
everybody took their money out. I mean, they
Yeah.
did, transfers, withdrawals, wires, all
Hmm.
this type of stuff to pull their
Yeah.
money out. And it just kind of caused the bank to collapse.
Yeah.
And there's a couple interesting things about this particular bank, is that they had $200 billion in assets, right?
Hmm.
And so you said, what's the difference between that and the Bank of America, right? Or a Wells Fargo and those type of
Right.
things that are very
Mhm.
large banks. This bank only had 16 branches
Right.
in the country,
In the country.
in the whole country.
Yeah.
And so the majority of the depositors, I think they said actually 100% of their depositors had over 250,000 of the FDIC
Yes.
insurance.
Yes, because they are in the tech, like most of their customers were tech customers. They're in
Right.
the tech industry. So think of startup apps and things like that. That's where they would go get their funding, and that's where they would bank. They made it attractive for tech startups
Right.
at this bank. Hmm.
Well, and what's interesting is you have these tech startups that have, no really,
No
they don't have any,
assets.
they don't have any assets or anything,
Yes.
right? And so they
Mhm.
get this money, but yet you have other banks, let me say other minority businesses, right?
Mhm.
And a lot of us, and in order for us to get a $50,000 loan, we got to
Right.
have every T cross, every I dotted, yada
I,
yada yada. But yet they
mhm.
give this money out for these big tech
Yep.
operations, really rolling the dice,
Yes,
um,
they are.
and that they're going to be profitable.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah,
all that came crashing down.
came crashing down.
So what impact does this have on everyday people?
Yeah. So from my standpoint, being in the accounting space, um, payroll is the number one thing that's affecting everyday people.
Mhm.
So these banks or these payroll providers banking at SVB. So now if a small business owner goes to run their payroll, they don't have money to pay the employees because there's no money at the bank.
So you mean as a business owner, I can't go
Yep.
to my employees and say, listen, the bank went down, so I'm going to be able to pay you maybe 30
Yep.
cents on the dollar that I owe you.
Yep.
It don't work in real life, right?
It don't
So
work in real life.
it puts the business owners
Mm-hmm.
and their employees in a pinch for sure.
In a pinch, yeah. And if you didn't have access to other capital, there's no way possible for you to make payroll. So I hear small businesses, especially those out in California, are trying to get bridge loans and things like that so they can make payroll till they figure out how they're going to get their assets back from SVB.
Right. Well, and one of the things that the federal government Biden administration announced yesterday is that all of the depositors will be made whole.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But I've spoken with some other people that have been through this before.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, yeah, but sometimes, they may get the FDIC money. They were supposedly getting that right away. I don't know what the real report is in terms of if they got it or not. I've been busy. They haven't really kind of saw what happened yesterday. But, this guy that I was talking to, he was saying it took like 90 days for him to get all his money back.
Mm-hmm.
Now, which brings us to the second thing is that there was also another bank that then actually went down on Sunday, right?
Yes.
Signature Bank in New York.
In New York. Mm-hmm.
And, they said Silicon Valley was the second largest bank failure in American history.
Mm-hmm.
First, the largest was Washington Mutual.
Right.
In 2008.
In 2008.
2008. Mm-hmm. So now we have another bank that goes down. And so the question is, and I think what the Biden administration and all these people were doing was trying to tell people, hey, listen, don't panic. Don't go rushing to taking your money out of the bank because then we'll have other bank failures.
Right.
So
yeah, but then there's like 16 they downgraded like 16 banks, I think.
16 banks. Okay.
Mm-hmm. They've downgraded because people are panicking and pulling their funds.
Now, I got a question for anybody watching. I want to put this out there. Y'all put in the chat. Googling is not allowed, right? You can't Google this. But how many banks do you think failed? Because we always talk about 2008. That's like the measurement of the worst economy that we've seen in our adult life. Mm-hmm. I'll say our adult life because we were born in the early 70s when gas lines were long and all that stuff, but we weren't adults.
Right.
We weren't, but there are certainly people who remember that. Mm-hmm. How many banks do you think failed in 2008?
Ooh.
I don't know if anybody knows, but I'm going to tell you. The number of bank failures in 2008 was 25 banks.
Wow.
25 banks failed in 2008. How many in 2009? Give me a guess, Michelle.
I don't know. 10?
140 banks failed in 2009.
In 2009?
2009, 140 banks failed. 2010, another 157 banks failed in 2010.
Wow.
2011, things started to get a little better in 2011. Only 92 banks failed in 2011.
Wow.
2012, we had 51 banks, and we had 24, and then we had 18, we had 8. 2016 was 5, 2017, 8, none in 2018, 4 in 2019, 4 in 2020, 2022, there was 2021, 21, 22, and 23 are 21, 22 no bank failures.
Okay.
And so now in 2023, listen, we've had 3 within a 4-day period of time.
Right.
Now, what I'm saying about all this, folks, is if you're watching The Real Money Coach tonight, is don't panic, right?
Don't panic,
Because
right.
this is not something that hasn't happened before,
Right.
right? Now, of course, it makes a big difference because these were large banks, multi-million, billion-dollar assets and that type of thing. But it's happened before.
Yeah.
And so, they're looking for buyers. And you guys may remember the savings and loan, where a bunch of those failed back in I think that might have been the 80s, maybe early 80s, somewhere along in there. So this type of thing has happened before. So don't panic. So if you have, and I was on a call with this guy. He said, so if I have $2.5 million in the bank, what do I do? I said, well, call me first.
Right.
Give a brother a jingle, right?
Right.
We can talk about it, right? But it says, so do I put 250,000 in 10 different banks? And is that really feasible for a business?
Right.
I mean, you got to think. Speaking of our special guest tonight, is it Roku? Am I saying it right? Roku? Is it Roku or Roku or whatever? The streaming, right?
The streaming, yeah. Roku.
Yeah. So they had $500 million in this bank.
Right. Yeah.
And and they said they'll be okay. They'll be able to make their payroll from other places until they can get their money back. But a lot of small business is not in that position.
Right.
So bottom line, folks, listeners, just don't panic. Be wise, and and all the things that you do. It's always good to diversify too, because we always talk about diversifying. It may not be a good idea to have all your money in cash. You need some gold. You need some digital money. You need some annuities. You need a bunch of different stuff.
Right.
Excuse me. To make sure that you are in good shape. So that's the major news. But
that is major.
We got a great show tonight. Let me tell you something. DJ Larry Jones is our special guest tonight. And I was really blessed to be on his podcast, the Power Hour, right? The Power Hour. Oh, let me see. We got someone saying many small business may have to rely on one bank because they don't have enough options to diversify and spread funds to other sources. And, not only that, I would say the other part about it is that we tend to have an adversary relationship with banks anyway.
True.
Right. And that's why when I was in this meeting today and we were talking about PPP money and how many of the Black and brown businesses did not get PPP money because, number one, we didn't have our financial statements right.
Yeah.
Number two, we trying to get paid under the table for everything we do.
Right.
Number three, we don't have banking relationships.
Yeah.
Where you can call your bank up and say, hey, listen, and I was fortunate enough to where my bank contacted me and said, hey, we can help you. Do you need us to help you? And I said, yeah, do the whole thing, make it happen. Right.
Right.
So just having those banking relationships, having your documents in order. And that was a big part of this meeting I was in today is how do we get more of our businesses to even know what a balance sheet is, to even know what a profit and loss statement is, a cash flow statement, and these type of things that are so important when we want to go out and get venture capital. We want to get access to capital so that we can scale and hire somebody. Right. So anyway, that's your soapbox.
It is my soapbox every day.
Every day. So so more exciting things to come on that. But let's get back to DJ Larry Jones. I had a chance to be on his show and it's just like we just clicked. I mean, there's some people that you talk to and I'm on their podcast and I may not invite them to come on mine, because maybe it just doesn't click. I don't know. Maybe it just doesn't click. But this guy, I was like, man, he's got to come on the show. And so we finally were able to make that happen. I am not going to tell you all about his bio because I want him to come on, tell his story, and tell us everything about himself. But let's go ahead and bring on DJ Larry Jones.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Welcome.
Hey.
Brother and sister, how you guys doing today?
We're good, fam. How you doing tonight?
Oh, man, I'm blessed to be here with you guys, man. You guys got a whole nice setup going on here.
Well, man, listen, I was on your setup, and I'm like, man, okay, let me come up and get a little tutoring on how to do this thing the right way. So, yeah, man, we're just really glad that you were able to be on the show. And just before we get into it, man, just prayers for your sister and everything that's going on, because I know you had to go back to New York and that type of thing, and so we just appreciate you taking the time out to be with us.
Absolutely. I thank you for that. So, yeah, man, I'm here. Like I said, it's a pleasure being here. From New York, man. Did some stuff. I'm just gonna jump right into it.
Man, jump right into it.
Let's just do it, man. Let's get into it.
Man, listen, because we've been yakking already for 20 minutes, man. So we don't have time for warm up.
Right.
Get right into it. Tell the people about DJ Larry Jones. Tell us a little bit about your journey, who you are, and that type of thing.
Listen, my journey began, man, in New York City. Born and raised in New York City, right? Messed around with some music, joined. I don't want to get too far into it because it is a long story, and we'll be here all night. So, so I started out doing music in a singing group back in the days and everything. Needless to say, it didn't work out because one of the members in the group, okay, let me take you back. Remember the group, the Boogie Boys? They sung that song, A Fly Girl, yada, yada, yada. That's back in the day, right? So he was our producer, producing one of the tracks, right? So one of the guys in the group decides to steal his medallion. And there went our so-called music career right out the window. He kicked us out of the studio. That was that. You know what I mean? But, music has always been in me. I'm a fast forward. Eventually, I moved to North Carolina, right? Started making some music and stuff online, just teetering around with it, right? Just giving away beats. Now, I wasn't the best beat maker in the world. I know I wasn't, just messing around. Long story short, it landed in the hands of Master P. So I get a phone call one day. It said, this is Master P. I didn't believe it. So I kindly hung the phone up. He called back laughing. No, this is really Master P. And we talked. And, he said, well, can you get to Las Vegas at the time? It was All-Star Weekend, and it was the Magic's convention, I believe. So didn't know how I was going to get there. Didn't know anybody in Vegas. Didn't know what was going on. That was my first time in Vegas. So I get there. I said, yeah, I can get there. So I made it there, right? Mind you, I was at the airport, snowed in. God rest his soul. What's his Biz Markie was at the airport as well. So I was talking to him. We snowed in. Got to Vegas like hours and hours late. When I got there, I called Master P. Yeah, I'm here. Finally made it. Oh, I'm in LA. Can you get to LA? So I said, this dude is giving me the runaround, right? So now here's where it gets interesting. I didn't know anybody in LA at the time. I knew one person, but not anybody I can go rest my head, right? Didn't know anybody. Didn't even know how I was going to get there. So, and this is where if you can dream it, if you believe in it, it will happen for you. So, so I'm in Vegas. I'm like, okay, I got to put my bags down somewhere. I got to sort this thing out, right? So I get settled with a good friend of mine, Reggie. Can't find him to this day. Reggie, if you're watching, holler at me. So, so I get settled in, go out to some parties, and first thing I'm thinking is I got to get to LA. So I start dancing with a few people at a party, blah, 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 asking them questions. Hey, where you from? Oh, I'm from Michigan. Oh, you're not the one. And, move over to the next one. Hey, where you from? Oh, I'm from Long Island. No, I don't need to talk to you. So finally met somebody who was from Los Angeles. Bells went off. Started conversing. Needless to say, now I could have been killed. Anything could have happened to me, right? I jumped in the car with this person and went to Los Angeles 2 days later.
Wow.
Got up with Master P, right? And it's a lot in between, but I know we only have so much time. But met up with Master P and everything. Everything was everything. Started working with him. Now, when we talk about the music business, it just wasn't for me. It just wasn't for me. It was cool and everything, but it's just too much trickery going on in there, and it just wasn't for me. So I decided to get out of it. Not to mention, it was my daughter's birthday at the time. And I told this in a small documentary I'm filming. It was my daughter's birthday. Excuse me. Her mom, which was since passed, said, well, if you go out there and stay out there, you're not going to have a home to come back to. So I decided to go out there and stay out there anyway. Long story short, when I came back to North Carolina, she was right. I didn't have a home to come back to, but that's all in the documentary. So, yeah, so do all of that. And just like I said, it wasn't for me. Came back, but I knew I still wanted to be involved in music somehow. So I started DJing small gigs here and there. Led to me getting on one-on-one jams in Charlottesville, Virginia. As soon as I got that gig, the pandemic hit. So what did the program director say? Oh, no one's allowed in the studio, so you're going to have to put your show on hold. Now, I was just getting my rhythm with the celebrities, doing the show, just getting into my rhythm. So I had quite a few at that time. I think it was Faith Evans. It was quite a few people who did the show. Avant did the show. Quite a few people. So when they told me I had to shut it down, I was like, wow. I was just getting my feet wet, you know what I mean? So after that, I said, someone said, well, why don't you just do your show and put it on YouTube? Just do it visual and put it on YouTube. So that's what I started doing. And then I met a good guy by the name of Michael Jones, who put me on Roku and Amazon Fire TV. The numbers are doing very, very well. And everything is looking good so far. I mean, that's pretty much me in a nutshell. I mean, that's it. It's a lot in between. So this show can actually last for about a week if I really get in depth with it. Yeah, it can go, man. This show can really go on and on and on. But yeah, so that's it. Me in a nutshell. DJ Larry Jones.
Well, you just kind of. All right, there we go. Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
All right. You just throw out names like Faith Evans,
Right.
Regina Bell, Ed Gordon. I'm looking at some of the people that have been on your show. I mean, those are some major people, and when I think about this in terms of just reading your bio and stuff, that music was always in your blood, right? In your DNA. You love music. How hard was it to come to the realization that industry wasn't for you?
When I wasn't getting paid.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Yeah. That'll tell you real quick, right?
Yeah. Now, don't get me wrong. Me and Master P, we became almost like brothers. You know what I mean? He's a good dude. And sometimes you can eat off of somebody's name. You don't necessarily need money, because what happened was I used his name and I name dropped a lot, and it got me in a lot of doors. So, and I eventually got paid from that. But he's a good dude, man. But that's what said, you know what, I'm done with this. I still had a house and 2 cars and a kid I had to take care of. So being out there really wasn't feeding me and feeding back home. So I had to leave.
Well, and that's a lesson in all of itself. That's a whole story right there in terms of, just stepping up and taking care of your family and knowing that you had to do something different, because so often we have these dreams, right? And we chase these dreams, and you got to have some sense of discernment of when it's time to pack it up and grow up and be a big boy, or do we continue to chase the dream? And, we don't want to give up on our dreams. It's that whole thing, 3 foot from goal. We don't want to stop, but at the same time, we got to figure out, what do we do now? How do we keep a roof over our head, feed our family, and all those types of things?
Right. I mean, that's why they call it the music business. I mean, you know, it's a business at the end of the day. And if you can't get mad at the next person if you're not taking care of your business. You know what I mean? And that's what I should have been doing. I should have had I was so excited just to be around a bunch of celebrities that I wasn't taking care of the business aspect of it. So, you know, I don't blame anybody but myself, you know. So, but, you know, I'm okay now. I'm not hurting.
So let's talk about the childhood, man, growing up in New York. Tell us a little bit. You know I had to go here, right? So yeah. So man, tell us a little bit about, you know, what that was like. You know, growing up in that era, you know, that kind of hip hop was real big, and what was it like growing up in New York, kind of chasing that music dream?
Man, listen, I started out breakdancing on a street corner for quarters, right? So that's how far I go back with it. You know, I still got some, you know what I mean, a little something in me. You know,
hey, that might be why that back ain't working. I mean, that
might be exactly right. So yeah, but that's how I started. That's how far back I go with music, man. So you know, it was okay growing up. I mean, but like any typical young African American growing up in the inner city of New York, you know, it wasn't perfect. You know what I mean? Moms did what she could, but it wasn't perfect. And you know, let me start off by saying this: I'm not here to throw anybody under the bus, but it is what it is, and it was what it was. You know what I mean? But yeah, like I said, it wasn't perfect. I had my dad was an alcoholic, God rest his soul. He would drink, and well, let me go back. That's where I got my interest for music. Was my dad, because he was from St. Thomas, Virgin Islands, and he played every instrument imaginable, from the flute to the saxophone, the keyboard. I mean, I watched this man just play all these instruments. He was like a one-man show, right? So, but he was an alcoholic. He had a drinking problem. And when he did so, that's when the abuse came in, you know, physical abuse towards my mom. So we grew up watching that, hearing the sounds, you know what I mean? It was just horrible. Yeah, it was horrible. And that's what we had to deal with, man. So none of my friends knew. We didn't go outside and tell, oh, my dad's upstairs beating we never did that. No one ever knew. And in fact, if they're watching now, they're probably saying, well, we didn't know that. But, you know, we never showed that. We never told that. It was just something that just stayed in the house, you know what I mean? But yeah, that's what we had to deal with, man.
And so you have these circumstances, and that's a lot for any kid, right?
Yeah.
And you know, the other thing, Larry, is there's a lot in that, because just like you said, no one ever knew. You know, I'm thinking, you know, how many situations are out there like that, where, you know, you have things happening, you know, behind closed doors, right? What happens in our house stays in our house. You know, we don't let that out. And you know, that can be very dangerous, as people are harboring all of that and what it does to you psychologically, emotionally, and all these type of things. And so now here you are, you know, African-American male, New York City, in this environment. What do you think? What do you think helped you to get out of that? What helped you to overcome it?
Because I didn't want to be like that. You know? Yeah. I didn't. So when I saw that, now let me say this. You can either become what you see, or you can, you know, choose to do better. I didn't want to, I just said, no, I don't want to be like that. You know what I mean? But everybody who grows up in a situation like that is affected by it, whether they know it or not. You know, some people just go like, oh, well, no, nothing, I'm okay. Nothing ever happened to me. I don't feel anything. Somewhere deep down inside, there's a problem that needs to be addressed, you know, within anybody who's gone through a situation like that. Do I have issues? Yeah, I have issues. I'm human. You know what I mean? Did I take something from that and still probably harboring it? Of course. That's why I'm talking about it, you know? So that's why, I mean, I encourage everybody. Now, I'm not saying my story was the worst. Everybody has a story. I'm not saying, well, mine's the worst. But, you know.
It's not woe is me.
Right.
It's
right.
Facts.
Right. It's facts. So, I mean, whoever's gone through something, I encourage them to talk about it, speak about it. You know what I mean? That's what I decided to do, and I'm just going to do it, you know?
And is that what's kind of leading to the documentary?
Yeah, so that documentary is it started out me just sitting in front of a camera, just talking, just put little. I didn't know what I was going to do with it in the beginning, and I still don't know because it took a whole direction. I don't know where it's going now, but it started off with me just telling my story in front of a camera, and I just been putting pieces of it on my social media, and people wanted to see more. So now I have to put this whole thing together, and it's going to be real heavy, man, because I'm going to just talk about a few things that may upset some people, but yeah, it's going to be heavy.
Oh,
Well, and I always kind of come up with a title for these that we put on the graphic, and in this one, I put the name of your podcast, right? The Power Hour.
Right.
But I was really this close to saying overcoming circumstances, right? I was this close to really naming it that because of some of the things that you had shared with me. So talk a little bit about the Power Hour and just how you pivoted during, because one of the things Michelle always talks about is turning your passion into a profit, right?
Right.
So you have this passion for music. You realize that what I guess would be the traditional or the route that everybody else wants to take, right? Everybody wants to be in front. Everybody wants to be on stage. Everybody wants to be with the big name artists and etc. And you decide to take you pivoted to something else. So tell us a little bit about that pivot and how you were been able to survive.
The Power Hour, it's my baby, man. Here's the thing about the Power Hour. I didn't want to be the guy that just airs out everybody's dirty laundry. Who's sleeping with who? Just getting to the people's businesses, so to speak. I didn't want to be that guy. It's enough of that going on out there. I just wanted people to my guests to come on and basically talk about what it is they're there to talk about. Whether it's a book, whether it's a movie, or whatever it is they want to talk about. So that was the whole thing for that. I wanted them to be comfortable and not be drilled by the host. But yeah, man, transitioning from the music business to that was a no-brainer. I mean, it's something I love doing. Is just running my mouth. I talk all the time, right? So why not get paid for it? So that's just something I just enjoy doing, man. Just talking to people and and just getting pulling nuggets out of them. Something that someone else can learn from. How did you make it? How did you get there? And I do understand that one person's journey, that may not be the journey that's for me or the next person, but it's something you can pull out of it and apply to your travels, your journey. Everybody has something that you can learn from.
Right. So you're like, I didn't want to be the TMZ podcast, right? But
yeah, not that there's anything wrong with that. I mean, I watch it and I love it, but for me, I just felt like, I'm not that kind of guy, you know what I mean? Because I don't really care who you're sleeping with. I don't care, what's going on like that. I just want to know, what are you here to promote? And we can laugh and joke and the show is over,
Right. Well, and the thing that intrigued me about it was called the Power Hour, and kind of, I kind of want to know what's behind that name. I mean, how'd you come up with that?
You know what? To be totally honest with you, randomly. I had a few other names. I can't remember them, but that one just seemed to stick. I don't know why. I knew the show was on for an hour. Well, really about 20 minutes with all the commercials they had on radio, but it was an hour. But yeah, and it just popped out to me. So there's no significance in the name.
Oh, sweet. So what has the experience been like, with the Fire TV and all that stuff going, because you went from radio to kind of, YouTube and now, streaming on these major platforms.
It's been good, really good. It went from audio to visual, and that made a difference. You know what I mean? I made a real difference. I forgot where I was at. I think it was the beach. And the elevator opened up and the guy said, "Hey, it's the radio guy." That made me feel like my work was, being seen.
Right.
Because you don't know who's watching. You never know who's watching. Sometimes I get in front of the camera and I'm thinking, there's nobody watching this. But somebody's always watching, so.
And, and that can be very, for me, that can be very rewarding. I try to share some of that with Michelle when I get it, is someone will send in a text message or email and they'll just talk about the show or what, or they were encouraged by the guests. And, all those things kind of make it worth it, when we can touch the lives of individual people and help them change, something that they need to change in terms of their life, or even just being encouraged, right? Because there could be someone that's watching this that may be in the same position you were a few years ago, saying, "Hey, listen, I'm doing this music thing. I'm not making any money. What do I do?" And, your example of making the pivot and transitioning to that, to now doing something that's also very successful.
Yeah. And to that, if there is somebody out there saying that, my advice would be to stop right now. Don't do another, whatever it is you're doing, beat, whatever it is, stop, get proper representation, somebody you trust, and then go back in.
Right.
Yeah. So that would be my suggestion. But yeah, man, I'm loving it. I'm loving what I do. Still looking for some sponsors. You know what I mean? So if anybody's out there wanting to sponsor the show, and hit us up.
Well, and I think that is something that's very real, because we talk about that too. We've never had a sponsor, and it takes a lot of time, talent, and treasure to kind of put on the show and keep it going. That's why I'm mad respect for what you're doing, because I do this little show and the radio show, and it ain't easy, right? And so, and you're saying, okay, what that you're called to do it, that this is what you're doing, but you gotta, you're saying, okay, what's the end game? What does that look like?
Yeah. The ultimate goal for me is to employ as many people as I can. So if I do get a lot of sponsors, that generates that income, and that allows me to employ folks from our community.
Right.
So it all, one hand washes the other, But and I do understand in our community, our people tend to not want to support for whatever reason. You know what I mean? We don't want to support nothing. We look at it. If I'm not showing females shaking their behinds and people fighting and stuff, I don't want to watch that. No, he's just running his mouth talking too much. You know what I mean? But There's always something educational, something you can get from watching the show. For instance, I had a young lady on who was kidnapped, and she was held for sex trafficking, and she escaped, right? It was a really, really powerful story. She escaped. She never did tell me the end. I never did read the book, so I don't even know how it all ended, but I know she escaped, and she came on the show and she talked about it. And then she gave some advice. Okay, now if you are kidnapped and your kidnappers do A, B, and C, and she went down the line as to what you should do and how you should handle yourself in that situation. So everything I do is educational.
Wow.
That's
real deep right there.
It is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's real deep. Yeah, that's real deep. So, I'm just sitting here, Larry, if just being complete, let's say you got a young person watching, young man, black, Latino, whatever, and they came to you and said, "Hey, Larry, I need some advice." What would you tell them?
I would tell them research whatever you are trying to do. Research it first. Make sure you love it. You know what I mean? Make sure you love what you're about to get into. You want to enjoy it. You don't want it to feel like a job. Once you get that, once you feel that on the inside of you, then go for it. Go for it. Go for whatever your passion is. but it has to be burning inside of you. Like you just want to do it and go for it. And nothing can stop you. You know what I mean? Nothing can stop you from becoming who you are destined to become. Because we're all here for a purpose. You just have to know what your purpose is.
And once you find that purpose, what do you do?
Once you find that purpose,
you turn it into profit.
There you go.
Right.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things you said is about loving what you do.
Mhm.
And and I think that's then it doesn't feel like work, right? Because you're loving what you do, and it just comes natural to you. And then and George Fraser always says this, don't chase money, chase excellence, and money will chase you, right? And so I love that, and I love your story, in terms of everything that you've been through, the decisions you made that brought you to this point. And so where do you see yourself, man, 5 years from now? What do you think that looks like?
Oh man, I see myself nationally syndicated.
Yes.
That's what I see.
Yeah.
And I'll be lying if I said it wasn't about the money, because who
there
it's
has
about
to be
the money.
A financial reward.
Yeah, I'm not doing this.
There's financial reward for what you do. Right.
Yeah, we're not doing this for the heck of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But so that's where I see myself. I mean, I look at people like Steve Harvey. I look at people like Howard Stern, and even Michael Baisden. I was a huge fan of Michael Baisden. I'm still a fan of Michael Baisden's. And so I pulled a little bit from each one of those guys and implement it, into how I interview people.
It's so funny, man. I was just about to ask you, who do you look up to? I mean, who do you who's out there that you kind of, and I'm thinking about the Breakfast Club and
big,
some of these other,
definitely big shout out to the Breakfast Club, Charlamagne the God, Envy, Angela Yee almost did my show, but it was scheduling conflicts. She didn't do it, but almost had her on the show. Yeah.
So how do you get your guests, man? How do you get these big names to come on and share?
So here's the thing. In the beginning, I was doing it myself, right? When I name drop people like Faith Evans, I reached out to her myself. That was when I first started, and she agreed to do it. Wow, I said, wow, she did it. And then it was Avant. Then it was then I started going old school. I love new school music, but there's nothing like the old school, right? So then I got guys like Dana Dane, just the old school people, and they were doing it. I said, wow. So all of that was like an unpaved street just being paving a way for me to get a booking agent. Once the booking agent saw the names I was getting, he said, well, okay, I'll help you out. So that's how I get my guests now, through a booking agent.
Pretty sweet.
Yeah. And he's a real good guy. Shout out to Raphael. He's a real good guy.
Awesome. And you're doing all this from Kannapolis, North Carolina.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So what I'm gonna start doing is I started already taking the show on the road, doing location shots, various spots. I started in Las Vegas, so I do go around Vegas and hit the mom and pops and stuff like that, showing the best eateries, what to do when you go to Vegas. Everybody thinks Vegas is all about the strip, but there's a lot outside of the strip. So for instance, there's it's a restaurant. It's called Blackout, I believe. And when you go in there, it's pitch black. The only thing they ask you is, do you have any food allergies? Right? You tell them, no, I don't have any allergies. Now, I don't know how many people is going to do this, but I'm going to do this. And they take your phone, take everything and put it in a lockbox, right? And then you go in there, pitch black. You don't see anything. They see you because they have night vision goggles on. So the waiters stay, they can see you. They give you a plate. You don't know what you're eating. And you just start eating it. And I don't know. I haven't been there. So that's where the show is going to go next.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't.
You gotta be brave.
I probably could get away with that. Honestly, I probably could do that.
Yeah.
Because
Fear
I
factor.
grew up in the country. I could do that, but I don't know. People I roll with, I don't know. Michelle,
Yeah.
the people I roll, they can't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're a little particular.
Yeah. I'm gonna try it though. I'm definitely gonna try it. So, yeah, man, you should come with me, man, and we'll go in there.
Yeah, I hear you, bro. I hear you. We're gonna be in Vegas a little bit later. We're gonna have to check.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I may be in Kannapolis this weekend. I got a good friend who's gonna be preaching up there at First Baptist
Really?
Church in Kannapolis. I believe their service is at 11 a.m. Come check it out. Real good brother. I did some financial literacy classes up there in Kannapolis. I did about 8 weeks.
Really?
Classes from the church up there, and so it was good people for sure in Kannapolis. So
yeah, we got to link up, man. We got to link up.
Absolutely. So as we're winding down, we're about to close the show out here in a few minutes. Want to just give you, freestyle last few minutes. Go ahead, whatever you want to share, whatever's on your heart, man. Just share it with the people.
Man, if you're watching this, just be you. Just be you. That's it. That's all I can say. Be you, be true, keep God first. Everything else will fall into place. I mean, I know things may not seem like it's going your way right now, but it will.
Just hang in.
Just hang in there. It'll go your way. I mean, right now, in my life, personally, things seem like it's not going my way, but I know that it will.
Well, so trouble may endure for a night, but joy comes in the morning.
Comes in the morning.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, even though, and we often talk about this, and I talk about it a lot, and even in my teaching and preaching and stuff like that, is that, when we keep our eye on the prize, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even when Peter got out of the boat and he walked in the water, as long as he kept his eyes on Jesus, everything was cool. But the word says that he started to look at the wind, right? Now, first of all, in the middle of the ocean, you can't even see the wind, right?
No.
You can't even see it. So we start to look at how we feel. You could feel the wind, but you can't see the wind. And the things we start to feel emotionally kind of block our vision of what we should be looking at. Right. And what it is really is what was the wind and the waves to Peter when he's walking in the water? It was a distraction from his goal.
Yeah.
His goal was to come to Jesus, right? Jesus said, "Come on to me," right? Get out of the boat, Peter, and come to me. But he was distracted by the environment that he was in.
Yeah.
And what we have to learn to do is not let the environment distract us from where our goals are and where we're heading. And just because the circumstances today don't look like it, right? But there's greater days ahead, man.
Greater days ahead. There you go.
There's greater days ahead. I mean, eyes have not seen nor ears heard.
Ears have heard.
That's right. For us. And so that's what I love about life is, the more you go through, man, the greater the reward and all those type of things. And so, I often say, I know too much about my God now.
There you go.
To fall for the okie doke. Right? Hey, I ain't falling from the forbidden fruit no more, man. I've been through too much for that.
Yeah.
And so, that's the sense I get from you too, Larry, is that like you've been through. I mean,
listen, when you learn to step out of your comfort zone, I mean, it's uncomfortable, but man, I mean, you learn so much about yourself.
Yes.
You learn so much about yourself. Lose the fear. You know what I mean? There's no fear. There's no fear in life. Just do it. And God will see you through the rest of the way.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The growth is on the other side of comfort.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, man, I certainly enjoy having you on the show.
That's been a pleasure.
We definitely will link up, man, and I'll be watching. I'll be looking for, send me a few tips, and all that kind of stuff, brother.
Definitely.
And we'll keep this thing going because what we're doing is so important. And as you were talking about, people don't want to hear, educational things. And what we talk on is we talk about money, and we talk about people need to get their budget right. We talk about that people need to get the credit right and these type of things. And the one thing people don't want to talk about is money, because we many times we feel like we don't have enough of it or whatever, and the case may be. And sometimes we just kind of turn our heads
because people want it right now. They want the money
Right.
now. They just microwave. J.G. Wentworth, I want my money and I want it now. You know what I mean? They just want the money right now.
Right.
They don't want to figure out how to get it or save it or hold on to it. Just give it to me, and they'll, that's how people think. Sad but true.
Or creating generational wealth. That's
Right.
what it's all about for us. Is creating generational wealth.
Right.
And you can't give what you don't have, right?
There you go.
So
there you go.
That's it.
Dude, it's been a pleasure, man.
Well, I enjoyed it, man. I enjoy our conversations that we have. Even we've been having by text messages and that type of thing, and so really enjoyed it, man. Somebody said great show and that type of thing. So, man, we appreciate you, and everybody. We will be back next week at the same time, 8:00 on Tuesday. But make sure you catch the radio show on Praise 100.9, 7:30 a.m. on Saturday mornings, and also it gets redistributed as a podcast that you can listen at your leisure on all podcasting platforms. You've been watching the Real Money Coach Show. Y'all have a good night.
Night.
Deuces.